So what's this inner ways forward thing really about? I've been struggling with that, trying to define really how I'm going to talk, what I'm going to talk about, and how I'm going to talk about it, because we're in a time of so much change as a species, the human race. It's like political things are certainly an issue, but also technological things like the development of AI, the very rapid advancement of AI, and so many other sort of related technological changes. And then there are environmental change and issues and concerns and population. And the list goes on about this. We're sort of in this crux point in history. And the core message that I've been reaching for, that I've been trying to bring out, is that so many of us are looking to try to manipulate the outside circumstances, all of those things going on out there, to try to maybe fix things. Like, if only those people over there who have that particular viewpoint would do something differently, then life would be better. If only I could change their mind, if only I could fix what's happening over there, then life would be better. And there's some truth to that, certainly, but there's also a lot of illusion in that. So that word illusion is something that I've landed on recently. And honestly, it's through a session I did with AI. So let me give you a brief thing about what happened and how I landed on this word illusion. I saw this prophecy by a woman named Lynn Twist, who works with some peoples of the Amazon. And she brings forth this prophecy that they have of that the time we're in basically is the culmination of a previous 500-year phase, the phase of the eagle, where we're focused on the material and the mental to the exclusion of the condor, which is more being of the heart. And that right now we're going through this transition from that previous 500-year Pachacuti into the next 500-year phase, which will be bringing the heart and mind into balance, the eagle and the condor into balance. That's my understanding of that prophecy. And I was thinking about that and just all of the things going on. And it's just so interesting to me that this prophecy just happens to align to the time we're in. This prophecy that this last 500-year cycle started, it's been around for a long time. It's not like they just made it up recently to fit the times. It was around, and the times are fitting the prophecy. And so I was working with AI just with other prophecies that are out there, like the Nostradamus prophecy, which some people say culminates in the year 2027. And even with the whole sort of cycle of destruction and creation represented by Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu, that's not really a prophecy as much as just where are we in those phases. And we're clearly in the Shiva, the destroyer phase right now. Things are being torn down, the old ways of being. But just thinking about that whole cycle of creation and how for the past 40, 50, 60 years post-World War II, we have been in very much a Brahma, a maintenance phase, trying to cling to what we created post-World War II, and then once we created it here in North America and in many European countries as well, trying to just cling to that and do more of that instead of actually creating something new. And I think as a result, now we're in the destruction, the Shiva phase, which will open the way for the Vishnu, which is the next phase. And I can talk more about that on a separate video. But anyway, so I was going through a lot of these things, and one of the things that came out of all these conversations is that in each prophecy, in each one of these, there is this point where the old ways, the sort of illusion of how the old way of being would lead to some kind of perfect happiness and satisfaction, it gets torn down, it gets destroyed completely and thoroughly enough that finally we wake up and decide, let's create something new. Let's create something better. And that's where I really landed with this, is that during this last phase, like in any phase in human history, we've bought into certain illusions, certain, you could call them beliefs, or I love the term boxes of logic because I think it's more complex than just a single belief. It's actually a whole set of logic that self-supports. And we've bought into these illusions. Illusions like that if having more wealth rather than less wealth can make you happier, then therefore even more wealth will make you more happy, and that you should just continue to pursue wealth endlessly, which has clearly been proven wrong. There are a lot of people who are extremely wealthy who aren't necessarily super happy. They're just on this endless treadmill for more, more, more. Or that gaining power through wealth and fame and things like that is going to, again, lead to somehow this great state of being, like where if you finally have this power and control, you can get control of all those crazy people out there. There's also this illusion that, dependent on things like race or where you're born or what college you went to or things like that, that somehow you have a superiority. So there's this illusion that so many, oh yeah, and religion. Religion can be a big one there too. Like if you believe in a certain religion, then you are somehow the blessed one. And that, again, it's this illusion of superiority. These things aren't truth. None of these things are true. I are not superior to other people, but we can certainly buy into the illusion of that. And I think this time that we're in, this challenging time, where so much is changing and all bets are off the table of what's going to happen, is a time when these illusions are going to be torn down. So many of them, maybe not all of them, but so many of them are going to be torn down necessarily. And this spans political boundaries. I mean, I think here in the United States, there are certain parties that buy into more heavily illusions. They buy into illusions more heavily, but there are other parties that buy into plenty of illusions as well. That, oh, for example, if we just elect new people into office, that it will fix the problems or will be the solution, the start of a solution. No, that just putting new people in there who still have the same old illusions is not going to do it. And you hear people sort of calling towards this idea, but I don't think people have named it. They call towards this idea that we not only need some new people, perhaps, we need people with some kind of vision. And that's really true. But what is that new vision? And I think the difficulty that new people have had, and we can just specifically say, for example, the Democrats here in the United States, the difficulty they've had is that they're still so immersed in this old illusion of the way things were, this stable period that we existed in, that it's just very easy to get trapped in the illusion, in the beliefs, in the programming of that time, and say, well, this is the way things are. And so you're not even able to create a vision of what new could happen because you're stuck in this old illusion. Einstein famously said, this reality that we're in is an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. And it is true. And people like to then say, well, if you think it's an illusion, like if I put a gun to your head, blah, 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 what, is that just an illusion? Is a video game an illusion? I mean, let's say you go in and play a video game and you bet a bunch of money that you're going to win, and then some other player comes up, some kind of gun, and shoots you, and your character dies, and you lose, and therefore you lose some money. Was that an illusion, or was that real? Right? That's the same thing with life. I think if you are bought into the illusion that all of this universe is just about the material stuff, then it's easy for you to ask questions like that. The problem is that makes all sorts of assumptions that I'll probably go into in another video because that's too much to go into here. But I'll just say that if you make different assumptions, such as that we have a consciousness that can transcend this one body, then if somebody puts a gun to a head and pulls a trigger, that's not necessarily the end of everything. It may be the end of this experience in this one body. It's not necessarily the end of everything. And it may actually, in a way, contribute to other experiences. I'm not saying that I'm inviting that. No, no, no. No, no, no. I'm not inviting that. But it doesn't really prove anything because people have bought into the illusion of the material, and they've also bought into the fact that there's some kind of randomness that might occur such that somebody might randomly show up and do such a thing. And you have to believe in the randomness, in the illusion of randomness. You have to believe in the illusion of randomness to believe that would just randomly happen to you. Back to the core point of illusion and where we're at and breaking down illusion. That is the thing that most lands for me now, is tearing down these old illusions, being helpful in a sense to this idea of Shiva, the destroyer, but not in a physical destructive way, but in a way of destroying old illusions, because that's ultimately what that mythos, that belief of Shiva is about. It is the destruction of Maya, the illusions that we buy into. Destroying those old ways, those old illusions, and making room for something better. And boy, do we ever have room for something better in this world, in this life. We have so much room for that. And I think it's time. It's time to start tearing down some of that old illusion stuff and figuring out what it is that we're going to build together rather than just reacting against what certain political figures are doing this day or what that person did that or whatever, and deciding what do we want as a species? What do we want as individuals? And moving towards creating that. And we've got to get those illusions out of the way. So I'm here to help with that, and I'll be coming back with more soon. See you there. Oh yeah, I should remember the like and subscribe. It really does help. Like the more you subscribe, all of those kind of good things, the more that motivates me to create more, because I'm not doing this for money. I don't have any advertising, none of that kind of stuff, at least not right now. And the more you do that, the more I'm likely to keep creating, keep doing this kind of work of really bringing this integrated view of how do science and spirit or sense of consciousness work together to give perspective on what is happening today in this world and how we can individually and collectively do something better, create something better. That's what I'm here to do. So please like and subscribe. That was a long way of saying that. And I'll see you next time.